Okay. So tonight's shiur is being sponsored Refua Shelema, Mikhail, haCohen, Ben Miriam, and Lelu Nishmat, Shalom Ben Istam. Okay. It's very exciting to come back. First of all, it was exciting to come back to see all the familiar faces. It was even better because we got a whole influx of new faces that have become familiar faces. This Shabbat is a very powerful Shabbat. You can say this on every Shabbat, really, but different Shabbatot have different koach, different strength. And this Shabbat is called Shabbat Hagadol, the big Shabbat. This is Shabbat before Pesach. Next Shabbat is Pesach. So this is the Shabbat before Pesach already. So Shabbat Hagadol.
This is the holiest Shabbat of the year.
So there are those who say this is the holiest Shabbat of the year. Why? So we know that really the year begins, we call Rosh Hashanah in Tishrei. There's a machloket in the Gemara. Did the world begin in Tishrei? Did it begin in Nisan? So we hold that in theory came in Tishrei. Hashem said, I'm going to create the world in Tishrei. In Nisan is when he pushes play. And so therefore, all of the Shabbatot from the whole year, they build up until we get to Shabbat Hagadol, where all the Schutim of all the Shabbatot are sitting right here in the Shabbos. It builds on itself. Now many Svarim bring down many different reasons why it's called Shabbat Hagadol. But we know that we're getting ready for Pesach. And Pesach, we all know, we went to school and we learned, and we know we got to lean and to drink the wine and the matzah and the maror, and I'm sure you say, your father probably says the same Devar Torah every single year, and most of the routine you know by heart already. Without properly studying, you could go through the Seder probably on some level. So perhaps we have to understand something new. If you go through the world, by the way, guys, if you go through this year Pesach, and it's the same Pesach as it was last year, you failed. Because you can't experience every year is the same. If you live life like a rat on a little, the Ferris wheel thing in Majiggy, and you're just running in the same place, so this year Pesach, yeah, I know, I did the same thing last year Pesach. And there's no new experience, and it's not just Pesach. It works with every Chag, it works with every time you put on tefillin, it works with every time you make it. If we're just doing things in motion, we're not thinking about it or growing, you're missing the point in life. We're not just supposed to go like this. It's supposed to be elevating each time you come back around. So if this year's Pesach is the same thing as last year's Pesach, I took the matzah, I put maror on it, I ate it, okay, great.
How do you do it differently?
So you have to look inside. We have to open up the layers.
How do the maror inside?
If you go, by the way, I went into Safra. Safra is one of the Judaica stores in Queens. The amount of Hagadot, I don't know if that's the right word, Hagadol, whatever it is, it's insane. If nothing else, you pick up a new one and find something new, something fresh. You know, my biggest problem with Hagadol, there are a million Haggadols. It's beautiful. My problem with that is, we put so much energy on the Seder. It's important. You need to put a ton of energy on the Seder. Right? The entire bedrock of who we are is Seder night. That's what separates us, the men, from the boys, right? But what happens, the Seder, right? We get two. In Israel, there's only one. So after that one night, so then what's the rest of Pesach? You put so much energy only into the Seder, we have to spend time on Pesach itself. As you should know, by the way, the Pnei Menachem, one of the Ger Rebbes, he was in love with Eretz Yisrael. He very badly wanted to go to Eretz Yisrael. And he never did. So one of his students once said, Rebbe, why don't you make Aliyah? Why don't you go? It's your passion. He says, you know what's holding me back? The second Seder. I can't let go of it. It's too precious to me. He said, because he wanted more time of the Seder. So we have to you have to get ready for the Seder, but we have to go beyond that. You have to look at the whole Pesach. And the Gemara in Pesachim starts off and it tells us something interesting. The Chag of Pesach corresponds to our mouth. And you don't even have to look really deep to figure this out. Right? We drink 4 cups of wine. We're eating matzah and maror. And the entire mitzvah of the night is Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim. It's to tell the story. And Kol HaMarbeh, anyone who tells the story even more, the more you talk, the better off you are. It's more mitzvot. The Gemara tells us even deeper though. Pesach literally could be broken up into two words that says Pesach, the mouth that speaks. That's what Pesach is. It's all about the proper way to speak. So who's the bad guy in Pesach? Paro. Which if you look at the word Paro, literally spells Ra, a bad mouth. If you look though, even crazier, the same letters as Paro, if you jumble them together, it's Oref. You know what Oref is? It's the back of your neck. This part of your neck is called the Oref. So perhaps we can understand like this. Pesach is a time where there are two ways to mess up through speech. There's speaking inappropriately, and then there's not saying anything at all. Right? Sometimes silence is golden, but sometimes if you need to say something and you don't, it's also not good. Perhaps we see Paro as those both. In his one name, you see both hints. Pera is using your mouth the wrong way. You speak inappropriately, you talk the wrong way, you lie, whatever it is. And then Oref, the back of the neck, there's no speech here. Not speaking when you have to speak is also not good. There's a medrash that tells us, by the way, it's a beautiful medrash. Paro had three advisors. Eov, Yitro, thank you, and Bilam. He asked them, they were his advisors, should we kill Moshe? Should we kill the Jews? Should we go like this? So what happens? Bilam says, yeah, knock him off. So right, so we know Bilam's not a good guy, he gets punished. Eov doesn't say anything. I'm abstaining from my vote. Right? Yitro says, no, are you crazy? Why are you going to kill them? They're good people. So Yitro, we know, gets rewarded. What happens to Eov? If you look, Eov, in case you're not sure, Eov is actually one of the books of Tanakh. If you look in Eov, he has a very, very difficult, challenging life. He has 10 kids, all 10 die. He has crazy wealth, he loses everything. He goes from a life of glory to a life of despair. Says the Medrash, why did Eov deserve such a bad life? Because he didn't say anything. If you don't talk, sometimes it's even worse than speaking up. So what happens? So we have to understand Pesach is all about using our mouth the right way. So if we look, the Sefer Divrei Yechezkel, the Shin of our Rebbe tells us something beautiful. It says, why is it called Shabbat Hagadol? Because there are 5 different places in your mouth that sound comes from. Right? If you think about it, you can break up all the sounds from 5 sources. Right? There are sounds that come from your lips joining together, right? A B, a P, right? There's some that come from your tongue hitting the roof of your mouth, your throat, your stomach. There are 5 motzot hapeh, sources of sound. The Shabbat Hagadol, the Hey refers to all 5 places. Hey is 5. It's referring to the 5 places of sound. On this Shabbat going into Pesach, we're able to take those 5 sources of sound and perfect them to get ready for Pesach. But let's take it a step further. This year Shabbat Hagadol rather, is Parashat Mitzorah. What's Mitzorah? It's talked about Tzarat, leprosy. So how do you cure leprosy? Says the Gemara, it says the Torah, there are 2 birds. One of the Kohen, the Tziva haCohen, and the Kohen will command, V'lakach l'mitaher, and we take for the one who needs to be purified, Shtei tziporim, he would take 2 birds. And one he would dip into blood and set free. One he would kill. And the other would dip into the blood but set it free. So says the same tzaddik, same Divrei Yechezkel says, you know what those 2 birds correspond to? One corresponds to Torah, and one corresponds to Tefillah. He says our Torah is our chiyut, it's our life. You have to kill yourself for Torah. That's what it is. Misha kol Torah, ela misha mem yitolav. Only, you know who acquires Torah? Somebody who kills themselves for Torah. Not literally, but if you know the big tzaddikim, right? Let's call Rav Chaim. Rav Chaim Kanievsky was just niftar, right? He finished the entire Torah every single year. So I don't care how big you think the tzaddik is. That's sheer insanity. That's almost not human.
But is it infinite?
Huh?
Like you can never learn enough?
You can never learn enough because that's what we're saying. We have to go deeper. But the material doesn't grow. So you'd finish all of Talmud Yerushalmi, and all of Talmud Bavli, and all of Tanakh, and all of Midrashim, and all of Zohar, and all of Sifri and Safra, and he would learn, literally, he would learn more in one day than most people learn in a year. Every single year he'd finish all the Torah, because he would kill himself for it, because he lived about Torah.
There's a method. If you keep reading the same thing 100 times, you learn more.
Right.
Right? So
Automatically it opens up.
Every time you reread the Torah, you probably have a better understanding of what's going on.
For sure.
What's written.
Come up with new things.
Right. That's why there are a million Hagadol, because you keep delving into it, you have a new understanding of something. It goes deeper. So you have to kill yourself for Torah. That's the bird that gets shechted, it gets killed. And our tefillah, where does our tefillah go? A tefillah has to ascend. Right? So the bird that gets killed is corresponding to our Torah, where we kill ourselves for Torah. And the bird that dips into that and then flies away, that's the bird that's our tefillah. They say a beautiful story about the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh. Baal Shem Tov goes to a Beit Midrash with all of his Chassidim. And he opens up the door, he's going to go pray, and he doesn't move in. And the Chassidim are like waiting, they're looking, it's time to pray already. So finally one of the tzaddikim, one of the Chassidim said, Rebbe, why are we not going in? He said, the Beit Midrash is full. He says, Rebbe, he like peeks in a little bit, he's like empty. So he says, with all due respect, Rebbe, there are very few people in there. There's a lot of space left. He says, no, it's not full of people. It's filled with tefillah. So the student's confused. He goes, what do you mean? The Beit Knesset, it's a shul. Isn't that the idea? They should be filled with tefillah. He says, no. The tefillot are supposed to ascend to Shemayim. If the tefillot are staying here, that's not good. They're supposed to fly up. This shul, he said, the shul is still, all the tefillot are stuck inside the shul. They never went up. Our tefillah is supposed to go up. So perhaps let's take these two ideas together. Shabbat Hagadol gives us the opportunity to perfect our mouth. The way we speak, the mode in which we speak, the words which we use, all of these things affect how we experience our freedom. I'm telling you, in school, I listened. There are kids talking. When I was in high school, if somebody dressed in a suit would say the F word, you were like shocked. You looked at the person like they were like, you're a clown. I'm not doing business with you. Nowadays, you can walk down and any businessman, every other word out of his mouth is the F word, and like that's okay. And so we become desensitized to the way that we speak. I can say, well, there used to be, there are 8 words, there were 8 censored words on radio. You were not allowed to say it. And there was always a button.
FCC.
Huh? Yeah. And there was always a button that if someone said it, you could always hit the button and it would bleep out 8 seconds. You had an 8-second delay to cancel out in case. That doesn't exist anymore. And even if it does officially on radio, social media, you say whatever you want. Nobody cares. So we become desensitized. What makes us different? The way that we speak is Pesach. Is we have a mouth that opens up and speaks properly. We have Torah and Tefillah. By the way, by Yaakov Avinu, you know what Torah and Tefillah is referred to? Our bow and our sword. These are our tools. This is how we defend ourselves. Paro is a para, literally. I'll say what I want. It doesn't matter how I speak, who I speak, what I say. One time I heard there's a tzaddik that used to, in Brooklyn, Rav Avram Palm. So one time he got up, he gave a fiery, passionate speech to the yeshiva. And it was about speech. He says, I'm embarrassed to even say this, but I heard 2 boys talking in the hallway. Somebody said something. I can't believe it was said in my yeshiva. The boys were all like shocked. And you're talking about a yeshiva where the guys are learning Torah all day, right? We're not talking about like an elementary school where kids are like saying whatever. So the guys are shocked. What did he say? He said, yeah, I would want to say it, but I can't even bring myself to tell you. I'm going to spell it for you. Shutup. And he refused, but that's the point. To him, I can't even say that. So you want to say, I'm not on that level of that sensitivity. Okay. We have to understand that that's a sensitivity. As opposed to being totally, I don't care, say whatever you want. Comes Shabbat Hagadol, and you know what it tells us? You know what it's Shabbat Hagadol? You know what the Gadol, do you know what the big part of the Shabbos is? You.
How you spend it.
You make it big. You are big. You have the ability to be awesome. It's not for naught that Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't speak. Right? He had a difficult time speaking. He needed Aaron to help him. So the koach of speech, Moshe Rabbeinu is the one to come and to save us. Speak to power, not speak to power. Say like this, say like that. The koach hadibur, the ability that we have on this Shabbat is double though. Because it's not just Shabbat Hagadol that's getting us ready for Pesach. Which is probably why there's a minhag many people have to read a part of the Haggadah on Shabbat Hagadol. To get our mouth ready to get to Pesach. And that's why can't you just remember it? Remember what happened in Mitzrayim. What's the mitzvah? L'saper. To tell the story of Yetziat Mitzrayim. You know, lahalacha, if you look in the most of the Haggadah, it'll tell you. What happens if someone's doing the Haggadah by themselves? Right? During COVID, a lot of people got stuck like this. There were literally people who were by themselves for the Seder. You know what it says about the Manishtana, which is part of, this is how we start. You know, what do you do for the Manishtana? You say out loud these 4 questions to yourself. Why? You just read it. You have to say it out loud. Because I don't think you have to get up on the chair and sing it like the little kid. But you have to say it out loud. Why? Because the whole idea is the more we speak with the right way, the more we speak about the miracles, the nisim, the beauty that Hashem does for us, the more connected we are to what really went down. The perfect speech that we have. You know, there are tons of languages. You know what we call Torah's language? What? Lashon HaKodesh. It's not Hebrew. It's not Ivrit. Lashon HaKodesh is the holy tongue.
Where do I see you?
Huh?
Where do I see you come from?
I don't know. It's made up.
Yeah,
Ivrit, Yehudi, whatever. Says, but this week we also learn about the 2 birds. One bird has to get shechted, and one bird has to fly. And those correspond to our Torah and Tefillah. Because we have to know when to play what card, but both of them have to come from the proper speech that we have. I saw once a beautiful mashal. So you say you're speaking. It purifies your mouth when we speak certain ways. And by the way, it could also just be, you know what the Torah says, the same Gemara that talks about Perah, Pesach. You know how we say an animal is not kosher in the Torah, right? And Nenu Tehorah. The Torah doesn't waste words, by the way. The Torah is very careful, very precise. It doesn't waste letters. Okay? When Sarai, Imenu's name changes, what was her name? Sarai. Her name becomes Sarah. What happens to the Yud? It's actually Yud. Just throw it off to the side. Says no. Yehoshua's name was originally Hoshea. That Yud connects to his name. So he becomes Yehoshua instead of Hoshea. Why? Because we can't waste the Yud. So every letter is measured. Says the Torah, you know what the animals that are not kosher are called? The word for not kosher, for impure, is tameh. The Torah doesn't call them tameh. And nenu tehorah, they're not pure. The Torah is wasting a word. And it's every time. Just say impure. Don't tell me not pure. There's an extra word that you're wasting. Says the Torah, no. I'm going to use an extra word if it means my speech is more naki, more clean. If you waste words because you're speaking in positive terms, That's better. Speak in positive ways instead of negative ways. We have the ability to use our mouth. It's the most powerful tool we have, by far. You can go to the gym and you go there with your Spanish rabbi dude and it sits, and you can get as brolic as you want to get. Your tongue is still more powerful than the biggest guy in the gym. Life and death is a pasuk in Tehillim, I think. Initially, Tehillim. Life and death is in the hand of the tongue. Mamash, literally. Pesach gives us the ability to perfect ourselves. Work on our speech. We have like a week and a half. Shabbat Hagadol, Shabbat tells us you have the ability to be big. Why? Through the Hagadol, those 5 sources of speech in your mouth, you can become big. My bracha to all of us is that we use this opportunity, this Pesach, not just to say the story, but to realize we're saying the story. That each thing, every bracha that we make, everything that we eat, everything that we share out of our mouth, everything from our mouth is kadosh. If we focus on that, Pesach will be totally different on Yom Tov. It'll be a completely different holiday. My bracha to all of us is that we have the ability to connect to that, to perfect that, and to become bigger people because we're using the koach of our speech properly.